Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. I'm your host, Ellen, and today we have 100 questions on general knowledge. Let's take a look at our Quiz Class awards. Let us know how you rank in the comments at the end, along with the answer to the bonus question. And let's begin. Which financial institution was established in 1913 to serve as the central bank of the United States? Bank of America, Chase Manhattan, or the Federal Reserve? The Federal Reserve. The mysterious disappearance of which aviator occurred in 1937? Wiley Post, Charles Lindbergh, or Amelia Earhart? Amelia Earhart. What economic theory did John Maynard Keynes develop during the 1930s? Monetarism, Keynesian economics, or supply-side economics? Keynesian economics. The identity of which serial killer in 1888 London remains unsolved? Jack the Ripper, Ted Bundy, or the Zodiac Killer? Jack the Ripper. Which stock exchange was founded in 1792? The London Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or the New York Stock Exchange? The New York Stock Exchange. The Tunguska event of 1908 occurred in which country? China, Russia, or Mongolia? That's Tunguska. Russia. What does GDP stand for in economics? Global Development Program, Gross Domestic Product, or General Domestic Product? Gross Domestic Product. Which ship mysteriously disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle in 1918? USS Cyclops, RMS Titanic, or SS Valencia? USS Cyclops. The first credit card was introduced by which company in 1950? American Express, Diners Club, or Bank of America? Diners Club. What happened to the crew of the merchant ship Mary Celeste in 1872? They mutinied, they disappeared mysteriously, or they were murdered? They disappeared mysteriously. Which economic indicator measures the rate of increase in prices? The exchange rate, inflation rate, or interest rate? Inflation rate. The Antikythera mechanism was discovered in which year? 1899, 1903, or 1901? 1901. What type of business organization offers limited liability to its owners? Sole proprietorship, partnership, or corporation? Corporation. Which ancient civilization's disappearance around 1450 BCE remains unexplained? Egyptian, Minoan, or Mesopotamian? Minoan. The Bretton Woods Agreement established which monetary system? Floating currencies, the gold standard, or fixed exchange rates? Fixed exchange rates. What was the likely fate of the lost colony of Roanoke? Spanish attack, disease outbreak, or unknown integration or conflict? Unknown integration or conflict. Which economist wrote The Wealth of Nations in 1776? Karl Marx, Adam Smith, or David Ricardo? Adam Smith. The Dancing Plague occurred in which European city in 1518? Paris, Vienna, or Strasbourg? Strasbourg. What does the term bear market refer to? Stable prices, falling prices, or rising prices? Falling prices. Which pharaoh's tomb was discovered intact in 1922? Ramses II, Cleopatra, or Tutankhamun? Tutankhamun. The concept of double entry bookkeeping was popularized by which mathematician? Leonardo Fibonacci, Galileo Galilei, or Luca Pacioli? Luca Pacioli. What mysterious phenomenon occurred at Dyatlov Pass in 1959? Dyatlov Pass. Avalanche, unexplained deaths, or UFO sighting? Unexplained deaths. Which financial crisis occurred in 1929? The dot-com bubble, the stock market crash, or the savings and loan crisis? Stock market crash. The Voynich manuscript is written in which type of script? Ancient Greek, unknown cipher, or Latin? Unknown cipher. What is the primary function of the World Bank? Currency exchange, trade regulation, or development financing? Development financing. Which explorer's final expedition ended mysteriously in the Arctic? Robert Scott, John Franklin, or Ernest Shackleton? John Franklin. The term invisible hand in economics was coined by whom? John Stuart Mill, Adam Smith, or Karl Marx? Adam Smith. What happened to the lighthouse keepers at Flannan Isles in 1900? they died in a storm, they vanished without trace, or they were murdered. They vanished without a trace. Which organization was established in 1944 to oversee international monetary cooperation? The United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, or the World Bank? The International Monetary Fund. The wow signal detected in 1977 remains unexplained and came from which direction? Constellation Ursa Major, Constellation Sagittarius, or Constellation Orion? Constellation Sagittarius. What economic principle states that bad money drives out good? Parkinson's Law, Gresham's Law, or Say's Law? Gresham's Law. Which ancient library's destruction represents one of history's greatest losses? The Library of Babylon, the Library of Alexandria, or the Library of Pergamon? The Library of Alexandria. The Glass-Steagall Act of 1933 separated which financial activities? Public and private banking, commercial and investment banking, or foreign and domestic banking? Commercial and investment banking. What caused the mass hysteria in Salem, Massachusetts in 1692? The ergot poisoning theory, a political conspiracy, or unknown psychological factors? Unknown psychological factors. Which economic theory suggests that supply creates its own demand? Quantity theory, Say's Law, or Keynesian theory? Say's Law. The disappearance of which flight in 1945 spawned Bermuda Triangle legends? Flight 370, Flight 19, or Flight 447? Flight 19. What does ROI stand for in business? Revenue over income, return on investment, or rate of interest? Return on investment. Which civilization built Machu Picchu around 1450 CE? Maya, Inca, or Aztec? Inca. The Securities and Exchange Commission was established in which year? 1932, 1936, or 1934? 1934. What mysterious substance was found in the Antikythera wreck? Encrypted documents, ancient computer mechanism, or unknown metal alloy? An ancient computer mechanism. Which economic model describes the relationship between unemployment and inflation? Demand curve, Phillips curve, or Laffer curve? Phillips curve. The mystery of which Russian royal family's fate was solved in the 1990s? The Rurik dynasty, the Godunov family, or the Romanov family? The Romanov family. What is a leveraged buyout? Purchasing government bonds, acquiring companies using borrowed money, or buying stocks on margin. Acquiring companies using borrowed money. Which ancient wonder's location remains disputed? The Colossus of Rhodes, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, or the Hanging Gardens of Babylon? The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The London interbank offered rate is commonly known as what? Libor, Forex, or Prime? Libor. What happened to the crew of the SS Orang Medan? Engine explosion, mysterious deaths, or piracy attack? Mysterious deaths. Which economist developed the theory of comparative advantage? Thomas Malthus, David Ricardo, or Adam Smith? David Ricardo. The Easter Island statues were created by which civilization? Chilean natives, Rapa Nui people, or Polynesian settlers? The Rapa Nui people. What is the primary purpose of derivatives in finance? Currency conversion, tax avoidance, or risk management? Risk management. Which archaeological discovery revealed an advanced Bronze Age civilization? Pompeii, Çatalhöyük, or Troy? Çatalhöyük. The term bull market describes what market condition? Volatile prices, stable prices, or rising prices? Rising prices. What mysterious event occurred at the Sauter family home in 1945? A UFO sighting, children's disappearance, or unexplained fire? Children's disappearance. Which financial instrument represents ownership in a corporation? Commodity, stock, or bond? Stock. The Peary race map of 1513 mysteriously shows which geographic feature? America before Columbus, Australia's outline, or Antarctica's coastline? Antarctica's coastline. What does PE ratio measure in stock analysis? Performance to expectation, price to earnings, or profit to expense? Price to earnings. Which ancient manuscript contains unexplained astronomical knowledge? Nag Hammadi codices, Baghdad battery texts, or the Dead Sea Scrolls? Baghdad battery texts. The Panic of 1907 led to the establishment of which institution? The FDIC, the SEC, or the Federal Reserve? The Federal Reserve. What happened to the inhabitants of the Anasazi civilization? Spanish conquest, unknown abandonment, or disease epidemic? Unknown abandonment. Which financial concept describes the time value of money? Currency exchange, present value, or inflation adjustment? Present value. The Shroud of Turin's origins remain disputed despite which dating method? Dendrochronology, radiocarbon analysis, or carbon dating? Carbon dating. What is venture capital primarily used for? Government bonds, startup financing, or real estate investment? Startup financing. Which ancient technology sophistication surprised modern archaeologists? Greek fire, Damascus steel, or Roman concrete? Damascus steel. The efficient market hypothesis was developed by which economist? Eugene Fama, Paul Samuelson, or Milton Friedman? Eugene Fama. What mysterious disappearance occurred in the Bass Strait in 1978? Submarine loss, Frederick Valentik's plane, or ship vanishing? Frederick Valentik's plane. Which monetary policy tool involves buying and selling government securities? Discount rate, open market operations, or reserve requirements? Open market operations. The Nazca lines in Peru depict what mysterious feature? Underground tunnels, giant ground drawings, or ancient maps? Giant ground drawings. What is a hedge fund's primary characteristic? Public trading, alternative investment strategies, or government backing? Alternative investment strategies. Which lost civilization was discovered in Cambodia in the 19th century? Champa Kingdom, Funan Empire, or Angkor? Angkor. The term stagflation describes which economic condition? Rapid growth, deflation period, or high inflation with stagnant growth? High inflation with stagnant growth. What happened to Judge Crater in New York City in 1930? He fled the country, he disappeared completely, or he was murdered? He disappeared completely. Which financial crisis term describes a rapid withdrawal of investments? liquidity crunch, capital flight, or market correction. Capital flight. The Bermuda Triangle encompasses which 3 points? Bermuda, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Bermuda, Bahamas, Florida, or Bermuda, Miami, Puerto Rico? Bermuda, Miami, Puerto Rico. What is the Black-Scholes model used for? Currency trading, bond valuation, or options pricing? Options pricing. Which ancient site's purpose remains largely unknown? Petra, Stonehenge, or Machu Picchu? Stonehenge. The Laffer curve illustrates the relationship between what 2 factors? Inflation and unemployment, supply and demand, or tax rates and tax revenue? Tax rates and tax revenue. What mysterious phenomenon affected livestock in the American West during the 1970s? Mass disappearances, cattle mutilations, or disease outbreak? Cattle mutilations. Which type of market structure has only one seller? Perfect competition, monopoly, or oligopoly? Monopoly. The Oak Island Money Pit has been searched for what since 1795? Underground passages, buried treasure, or historical artifacts? Buried treasure. What does IPO stand for in finance? Investment portfolio option, initial public offering, or initial price offering? Initial public offering. Which ancient city's advanced urban planning system amazes modern archaeologists? Babylon, Memphis, or Harappa? Harappa. The quantity theory of money relates money supply to what? Exchange rates, price levels, or interest rates? Price levels. What happened to the princes in the Tower in 1483? They died of illness, they disappeared mysteriously, or they were exiled. They died mysteriously. Which financial ratio measures a company's ability to pay short-term debts? Debt to equity ratio, current ratio, or price to book ratio? Current ratio. The Yonaguni Monument underwater structure is located near which country? China, Philippines, or Japan? That's the Yonaguni Monument. Japan. What is the primary function of commercial banks? Currency exchange, accepting deposits and making loans, or investment services? accepting deposits and making loans. Which historical figure's death in 1963 spawned numerous conspiracy theories? Malcolm X, John F. Kennedy, or Martin Luther King Jr.? John F. Kennedy. The capital asset pricing model calculates what? Currency values, expected stock returns, or bond yields? Expected stock returns. What mysterious event occurred at Roswell, New Mexico in 1947? A nuclear accident, an alleged UFO crash, or a military cover-up? An alleged UFO crash. Which international agreement established the World Trade Organization? GATT, Bretton Woods, or the Uruguay Round? Uruguay Round. The Antikythera mechanism demonstrated ancient knowledge of what? Chemistry, astronomy, or medicine? Astronomy. What is corporate governance primarily concerned with? Product development, management accountability, or employee relations? Management accountability. Which aviator's disappearance over the Pacific in 1937 remains unsolved? Charles Lindbergh, Howard Hughes, or Amelia Earhart? Amelia Earhart. The Mundell-Fleming model describes what economic relationship? Trade and growth, inflation and employment, or exchange rates and monetary policy? Exchange rates and monetary policy. What happened to the Lost Battalion in World War I? They disappeared entirely, they were surrounded but rescued, or they were captured? They were surrounded but rescued. Which financial instrument pays fixed interest over a specific period or specified period? Stock, option, or bond? Bond. The Voynich manuscript dates to which century? The 14th, 16th, or 15th century? The 15th century. What does the term moral hazard describe in economics? Ethical business practices, social responsibility, or risk-taking due to protection from consequences? Risk-taking due to protection from consequences. Which ancient civilization's sudden collapse around 1200 BCE puzzles historians? Egyptian, Assyrian, or Mycenaean? Mycenaean. The Sharpe ratio measures what aspect of investment performance? Total return, dividend yield, or risk-adjusted return? Risk-adjusted return. What mysterious radio signal was detected from space in 1977? The Vela incident, the Phoenix lights, or the WOW signal? The WOW signal. And for our bonus question, which country did the United States fight in the Forgotten War from 1950 to 1953? Let us know the answer in the comments and, of course, how well you did with our quiz class, Einstein Rewards. If you enjoyed our quiz, hit that like button, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.